After helping my neighbor carry her groceries every week for a year, I asked if she could stop throwing trash over the fence. She laughed and said, "That's the price of your guilt." The next day, I built a barrier. Then I heard her yelling and what she screamed next. I moved into a duplex on Maple Street about a year ago. Small place, cheap rent, decent yard. The neighborhood was mostly quiet. Just old folks, young couples, and a lot of dogs barking behind fences. I liked it. The first Saturday I lived there, I was coming back from the grocery store when I saw a woman across the street struggling with her bags. One of those thin cloth ones had split at the bottom, and cans were rolling out everywhere. She bent down and muttered something under her breath. I jogged over and helped her grab everything before it hit the curb. "Thanks," she said, kind of stiff. "I usually bring a backup bag, but I forgot." "No problem," I told her. "You live here?" She pointed to the house next to mine.
Yeah.
"Been here about 5 years." That was how I met Sarah. After that day, I started helping her with groceries every Saturday. It became a thing. I'd see her car pull up, and I'd go out. She always had too many bags. Sometimes she'd mention her mom was staying with her and needed certain food. Other times, she'd just say, "Stocking up." She wasn't exactly friendly, but she wasn't rude either. More like, guarded. I didn't mind. I wasn't looking for deep friendship or anything. We just had this routine. Help with bags, chat for 5 minutes, then go back inside. About 2 months in, I started noticing trash in my yard. Small stuff, plastic wrappers, crushed soda cans, the corner of a pizza box. At first, I thought it was wind or raccoons. But then one morning I looked out the back window and saw a crumpled takeout bag fly over the fence. It landed right next to my tomato plants. I stepped outside and sure enough, it was from the same Chinese place I'd seen her bags from. I picked it up, threw it away, and didn't say anything. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe the wind caught it. I didn't want to cause drama with a neighbor I saw every week. But it didn't stop. Every week, more trash. Little things. A yogurt lid. A crushed beer can. A half-empty chip bag. And always on Sunday or Monday, right after I helped her with her groceries. It was like clockwork. After a year of this, I finally brought it up. I'd just handed her the last bag and was about to leave when I said, "Hey, Sarah, I've been meaning to ask, could you maybe keep an eye on your trash? A lot of it ends up in my yard." She looked at me and laughed. Not a light laugh. Not surprised. Just this sharp, cold laugh, like she'd been waiting. Then she said, "That's the price of your guilt." I blinked. What? She didn't explain. She just smiled, turned around, and shut her door. I stood there with my mouth half open. I didn't know what she meant. Guilt? What guilt? That night, I couldn't sleep. Her words stuck in my head. What did I owe her? I helped her every week. I never asked for anything. I even fixed her side gate once when it came off the hinge. So the next day, I built a barrier. A tall, clean wooden slat fence right along the section where her trash always came over. It wasn't fancy, but it was solid. And it was on my side, just inside the property line. I even planted a few small bushes in front of it. Around noon, I was inside making lunch when I heard shouting. I went outside and saw her standing on the other side of the barrier. Her face was red. She was yelling something, but I couldn't make it out at first. Then she screamed, "You think this wall makes you clean?" I stepped forward. "Sarah, you think you're the good guy? After all this time?" I stared at her. "I don't know what you mean." She was shaking. "You got exactly what you wanted. My help. My company. My silence. And now you're done with it, so you build a wall?" "I helped you," I said. "Every week. I carried your stuff. I never asked for anything. You got peace of mind," she said. "That's what you wanted, right? To feel like a good neighbor? A good man?" She dropped a black garbage bag over the fence. It hit the dirt hard and burst open. Egg cartons, wrappers, something wet inside. "That's what guilt costs," she said again, quieter this time. Then she walked back into her house. I didn't touch the garbage bag. I left it sitting there in the dirt like some kind of message. Flies circled it. The smell started to rise by the end of the day. But I couldn't make myself move it. Not yet. I just stood there at the window, staring at it like it held an answer. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard her voice again. You got peace of mind. That's what you wanted. It didn't make any sense. What did she think I owed her? The next morning, I got up early and took the trash to the bin out front. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. By Wednesday, there were 3 more bags. Smaller ones, takeout, used paper towels, a broken wine glass shoved inside a grocery sack. All flung over. Deliberate now. That's when I called the landlord. He came by that afternoon, looked at the mess and sighed. Jesus. You two having a feud or something? I told him the basics. She was dumping trash. I asked her to stop. She got weird about it. He shrugged. You know what? I'll talk to her. But she's been here 5 years. Always paid on time. Quiet. Weird, sure, but quiet. He left, and I waited. No change. On Friday, I came home from work and found something new. A note, tucked under a brick at my front door. It said, "You're not innocent. You just forget well." No name. No explanation. Just that. I held it in my hand for a long time, trying to figure out if I was supposed to remember something. That night I saw her standing in her backyard. Just standing there, arms crossed, staring at the barrier. I went outside. She didn't turn to look at me. I said, "What do you mean? I forget well?" She didn't move. She just said, "You think being helpful makes up for what happened?" What happened? I asked, louder. What did I do? She finally turned her head. Her voice was low, flat. You were in the garage the day it happened. I saw you. You watched it happen. I felt something cold crawl up my spine. I don't know what you're talking about. She took a step closer to the fence. 2 summers ago, the house across the street. You were standing in your driveway. You saw that kid fall off his bike and get hit. You didn't even go over. I blinked. What? You didn't even go over. You went back inside. You didn't call anyone. I stared at her. What kid? That wasn't me. That wasn't. But she cut me off. I was the one who ran out. I called 911. I held him while he bled. You just walked away. I couldn't speak. I had no memory of this. No memory of any kid, any accident. But her face, her voice, it wasn't a game. That's why I never said anything, she said. Because I figured maybe you were scared. Or guilty. So, I let you help with groceries. I let you feel like a good person. She stepped back into the shadows. And now you want to build a wall and pretend it's all even. But it's not. She turned and walked inside. I stood there in the dark, replaying her words in my head over and over. You were in the garage. You saw that kid fall. You just walked away. I couldn't remember anything like that. I'd only lived here a year. 2 summers ago, I was still in Indianapolis, crashing on my cousin's couch after the divorce. That's not even a timeline I could mess up. I had pay stubs, lease paperwork. Proof. So the next morning, I went over with a folder in my hand. I knocked on her door. She didn't answer. I knocked again. Nothing. So I slipped the papers under the door. A copy of my old lease. My moving truck receipt. Just a note that said, "This isn't possible. I wasn't even here." That night, her porch light stayed off. The trash stopped for 3 days. Then Sunday morning, I found something worse than garbage. A photo. Taped to my back fence. Old, grainy. Printed from a security cam or maybe a phone. It showed a man standing in a driveway, wearing a hoodie, looking across the street. There was a kid on a bike in the corner of the frame. The man looked like me. I couldn't be sure. The quality was bad. But the build, the stance, it was close enough to make my stomach twist. Same hair. Same posture. And the garage door in the photo looked just like the one next to mine. I stared at that photo for over an hour, trying to convince myself it wasn't me. Then I made a mistake. I asked my neighbor on the other side, Tom, an older guy who mostly kept to himself, if he remembered anything. He looked at the photo, squinted, and said, "Yeah, that was a rough day. That kid got dragged a few feet before the car stopped." I asked, "When was this?" He said, "Maybe 2 years back. Your house was still empty then, I think. New guy moved in after." I pointed to the man in the photo. "That's not me, right?" Tom stared at it again, slower this time. "Could be. Hard to say. Looks like you. But I don't think it was." I pressed. "Do you remember who it was?" He hesitated. "Honestly? No. But Sarah would. She was the one who found him." I nodded and walked back home. That night, I opened my laptop and pulled up local news from 2 years ago. Searched for bike accidents. Found one. A 9-year-old boy hit on Maple Street. Same block. Same time. No witnesses named. No charges filed. The driver stayed at the scene. The boy survived but was in critical condition for weeks. Then I saw the photo attached to the article. A woman kneeling in the street, holding the boy. It was Sarah. So she hadn't lied about being there. But she had lied about me. Why? The next day, I stayed home from work. Not because I was scared. I just needed space to think. To figure this out without someone else's voice in my ear. By noon, I'd gone through every photo I had on my phone from 2 years ago. Work shots, old friends, receipts, anything with a timestamp and location. Everything pointed to me being in Indianapolis during that summer. It didn't matter. Sarah believed what she believed. So, I made another mistake. I printed out a copy of the article with her photo and slid it under her door. I left a sticky note on it. "Why are you lying about me being there?" 5 hours later, I heard a loud thud against my back fence. When I went outside, I found a shoebox. Inside it were torn pages from what looked like an old diary. Some were dated. Some were barely readable. But one page stopped me cold. It said, "He moved in next door today." I thought I imagined it at first. Same hair. Same walk. I told myself I was being paranoid. But when he looked at me, I felt sick. Another page. "I finally know why he makes me angry. It's not just the way he walks. It's that he acts like nothing happened. Like we didn't all suffer." Another. "Maybe it's not him. But I don't care. He looks enough like the man who stood there and watched. So I'm going to make sure he remembers something, even if it's not his memory." I stared at that page for a long time. She wasn't confused. She wasn't mistaken. She knew I wasn't that guy, and she didn't care. This wasn't guilt. This was punishment. Projection. I thought about going to the police. But what would I say? My neighbor is emotionally tormenting me because I remind her of someone who did a terrible thing 2 years ago. They'd probably tell me to block her number and build a taller fence. So instead, I went to talk to her mother. Sarah had mentioned her mom in passing, said she stayed there off and on. I'd helped bring groceries in for her too, once or twice. I'd even seen her through the window some afternoons. So that week, when I saw the front blind shift, I knocked on the door. It opened halfway. A pale, tired-looking woman stared back at me. Her eyes were glassy, like she hadn't slept well in years. "I'm sorry to bother you," I said, "but I need to talk about Sarah." She blinked slowly. "She's not here right now." "I know, but I think she's confused about something." She looked at the ground. "She's not confused. She's telling people I stood by and watched that boy get hit. That I lived here 2 years ago. But I didn't." The woman didn't flinch. She looked me in the eye and said, "You look like him." "I'm not him." "I know. But it doesn't matter." I waited. She stepped back a little. She stopped sleeping after that summer. She started writing everything down. Every dream, every face. When you moved in, she thought it was a sign. She told herself it was the universe giving her a chance. A chance for what? Her voice dropped. To give someone the guilt he never had. Then she closed the door. I stood there for a full minute before walking back home. My head was spinning. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't guilty. But now I was caught in someone else's story, and she wasn't ready to let it go. After that, I stopped talking to her. I didn't return the trash. I didn't knock. I didn't even look in her direction. I just went on with my life, quiet, controlled, deliberate. Like if I kept everything clean and steady, she'd eventually move on. But she didn't. One night, about a week later, I came home to find my fence had been spray painted. In black paint, big block letters. Remember him. That night, I sat in the dark living room and stared at the wall for hours. I kept wondering if it would have been easier to just play along, to say I was sorry even though it wasn't me. But something about that felt worse. Around 3 a.m., I took the box of diary pages out again, flipping through, trying to see it all from her side. Maybe she really couldn't tell the difference anymore. Maybe I was just a stand-in, close enough to the shape of her pain that I became part of it. But then I saw something new. Tucked inside the box was a photo I hadn't noticed before. A real one this time, developed film, a little bent at the corner. It showed a group of people standing on the sidewalk. Sarah was there, off to the side, hands on her hips. And next to her, standing closer than anyone else, was a man who looked just like me. Same height, same hairline, but older, maybe 5-10 years older. His eyes were different, harder, written in pen on the back of the photo, July 14th. Before. So she did know the difference. She'd seen the real guy. She had proof. She kept it. But she still chose me. That was when I stopped trying to make sense of it. She wasn't mistaking me for him. She was using me because I looked like him, because I was here, and because he wasn't. I still live here. The fence is stained, the bushes are dead, and I haven't said a word to her in months. Sometimes I hear her moving around next door, dragging bags across the floor or talking too loudly on the phone. I think about knocking, explaining again, showing her the photo. But then I remember what her mother said, that it didn't matter. And maybe that's the part that stays with me. That someone else's pain can spill into your life, stick to your name, and never let go. Even when it was never yours to carry.